Hello guys, welcome to Anita Crochets. My name is Anita. Today we have the foliage top. I have written a pattern for this top and it's going to be on my Etsy, coffee shop and Ravelry. The link is in the description box. Now for this tutorial, I really do request you guys to go and look out for my crochet leaf tutorial that I previously put on my channel before you actually get to work this tutorial or get to work this project. The tutorial provides you information that you need that you will carry on to this tutorial, okay? Also to learn how to work the smallest sleeve of this top. Other than that, when you know how to work the leaves, you can actually even make a dress. I have tried to make one myself, so let's get started on this one. These are the materials we are going to need for this project. We are going to need a pair of scissors, yarn. You see that I already have my smallest leaf and I have worked a tutorial for this leaf, okay? I'm just going to attach the link and the thumbnail so you guys can know which tutorial to look out for just in case you want to work this. And I'm working with this kind of yarn. It's acrylic yarn, size 2 yarn, so I'm doubling my strands. Lastly, you need stitch markers and needle, and I'm working a yarn needle and I am working with a 3.5mm hook, okay? Now, first of all, I have 3 leaf sizes for this project. There is this biggest leaf, as you can see, and this is the bust leaf. These are the leaves that are going to cover your bust. Then there is this medium-sized leaf. This is for the underbust. These are the underbust leaves, okay? And then there is this smallest size, and this one is for the halter neck. So what is going to happen is I will need 2 of these, okay? I will need 2 of these, and then I will need 3 of these, okay, because these are for the underbust, and then 1 of the small one, this one right here. So I have worked a tutorial right there for the smallest leaf, and in this tutorial I'm going to be working the medium size leaf. Then I will tell you what adjustments to make so that you can make the biggest leaf as well. All right, now I hope you've really understood that. Now we are going to get started on working our tutorial and the leaves and how to make that top complete. Now what we are going to do is we are going to get our yarn and I will work a slip knot just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to work 31 chains. Now the underbust leaves may not need you to adjust that much, okay? So you can still, anyway, if you need more coverage for your underbust, then you can go up to like 36 chains or 41 chains. We are working in sets of 10 plus 1, all right? I'm going to get to explain what adjustments you need for the biggest leaf and you know, considering which size you are making. But for the underbust leaves, I don't really think that we need that much adjustments, honestly, unless you need more coverage. But for myself and what size I am working for, which is a size small, but even for medium, I would still work the very same leaf sizes for my underbust. So once you have 31 chains, you are going to work a single crochet into the second chain stitch from the hook, and from there you are going to keep working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way until you have 1 stitch left to end your row, okay? So just keep working 1 single crochet in every stitch until you have 1 stitch left to end your row, then I'll meet you there. Now once we are at the end of our row and we have 1 stitch left at the end of our row, this is what we shall do in that 1 stitch. We shall work 2 single crochets into that very same stitch. Then we shall chain 1, And once again we work 2 single crochets all in that very same stitch. So in this way, this is more like our turning point, because now we are going to start working on the opposite side of our foundation chains. All right, so onto the opposite side of our foundation chains, we start working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way going down. All right, so into that very first stitch right there, you work a single crochet. Do the very same thing into the next stitch. All right, and just continue working 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way until the end of the row. So I'm going to let you guys work your 1 single crochets or your single crochets all the way until the end of the row, and that's where I'm going to meet you to show you how to work the next row. And here I am at the end of my row. This is how my work looks like, and this is how your work should look like. Now the next row is we are going to chain 1, turn our work, skip the very first stitch, and then work 2 single crochets together into the next stitch. Okay, now remember, for this row we are working into the back loops of each stitch. So when working your 2 single crochets together, make sure you're working them into the back loops of those next 2 single crochets. Now continue working 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch all the way going up until until you get to the chain 1 space at the top or at the peak of your work. So now here we are at what I would say is the curve of our work, and here we are. I actually confused it for chaining 1 to turn my work. No. So into the chain 1 space at the top of my work, I'm going to work 2 single crochets into that chain 1 space that we worked on the previous row, and then chain 1. Once again, I will work 2 single crochets all in that very same stitch. All right, so in that way we are now going to work on the opposite side of our row. Okay, so in here we are going to work 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch all the way going down until we have 2 stitches left to end our row. All right, so just keep working 1 single crochet into every back loop of every stitch until you have 2 stitches left to end your row, and that's where I'm going to meet you and show you how to end your row. All right, now unlike the smallest leaf, because if you watch the tutorial for the smallest leaf, which I request you should watch before you get to work this leaf, unlike the smallest leaf, with the smallest leaf we are working our single crochets until we have 3 stitches left to end the row, and then we work 2 single crochets together, leaving 1 stitch unworked. But with this one, we are working our single crochets until we have 2 stitches left to end our row. Okay, that's where I'm going to meet you, then show you how to end your row. Now as you can see, I have 2 stitches left to end my row, and this is what I will do. I will work 2 single crochets together into those last 2 stitches, into the back loops of those last 2 stitches. Okay, now with the smallest leaf we were actually leaving 1 stitch unworked. Okay, which would mean like working 3 single crochets together, because if you work 2 single crochets together into the last 2 stitches and you leave 1 stitch unworked, that means you have worked more like a 3 single crochet together. But with this one we are working 2 single crochets together. Now after that, you are going to chain 1 and turn your work, skip the very first stitch and work 2 single crochets together into the next 2 stitches. All right, remember we are working into the back loops of those stitches. I don't want you guys to forget that, because it is with this ribbing stitch effect that we get that leaf to look as perfect as it looks. All right, so into the back loop of every stitch we keep working 1 single crochet until we go all the way up to the chain one space that is at the peak of our work. Okay, so just continue working one single crochet into the back loop of every stitch until you get to the chain one space. That's where I'm going to meet you, then show you what to do. And here we are. This is how my row looks like so far. So I'm going to get into that chain one space right there, and there I am going to work 2 single crochets together. Sorry, two single crochets. Then I will chain one and work 2 single crochets once again. Okay, now I'll start working 1 single crochet into the back loop of the next stitch, and I'll continue working 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch until I have 2 stitches left to end my row. All right, so basically this leaf, there is nothing that changes, honestly. Nothing that changes, even with the bigger leaf. The only thing that changes is the number of foundation chains that you work. In my previous tutorial for the smallest leaf, I explained this, but I'll say it again. Okay, for this row, just work this until you have 2 stitches left to end my row. So let me just keep talking so that I explain a few things. Now, once you are down here and you have 2 stitches left to end your row, you will work 2 single crochets together into those last 2 stitches. Now, even the next row is just going to be similar to this one. Okay, like you will chain one, turn your work, skip the very first stitch, and then get into the next 2 stitches and work 2 single crochets together. Okay, after that you work 1 single crochet into every back loop of every stitch, all the way going up until you get to the chain one space that is at the top of your row. All right, and once you get to the chain one space that is at the top of your row, okay, you will work 2 single crochets, chain 1, 2 single crochets, all in that very same stitch right here at the top of your row. Okay, then after that, work 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch, all the way going down until you have 2 stitches left to end your row, and into these 2 stitches you'll work 2 single crochets together. Now nothing changes, honestly. You just keep going round and round in that kind of manner for a total of 11 rows. Like I need 11 rows in total before I start working on the sides of each leaf so that I have a base for my stalk. Okay, now this is how your work should look like after you have 11 rows. Personally, I have 9 rows so far, so I'm going to go all the way around for 2 more rows so that I have a total of 11 rows. Okay, but what I needed to explain is the length of your leaf is determined by the number of foundation chains that you work when starting your work, and then the width of your leaf is determined by the number of rows you keep working, because the more rows, the more wider it's going to get. Okay, so basically this is how it is. For the smallest leaf, if you remember, I started with 21 chains. For this medium-sized leaf, I've started with 31 chains. And because I am working for a size small, this top is for a size small, my biggest leaf will be started with 41 foundation chains. Okay, so to make adjustments given the size that you're working for, more so for the bust leaf, you will need to work with maybe if you're working for a size medium, you will need to work 51 chains for the bust leaves. Okay, don't confuse them. The medium sized leaves are for the under bust. So for the bust leaves, you may need to work 51 foundation chains, but everything else as I have worked for this medium sized leaf remains the same. Going round, maybe the number of rows. For the number of rows, you may not need to work 11 rows. You may need to work maybe about 12 rows or something. okay, given the coverage that you need for your bust. So now once you have your 11 rows complete, you are now going to chain one, turn your work, skip the very first stitch and work 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. Then after that, you are going to work 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch, all the way going up until the chain 1 space. Now surprisingly, for the next 3 rows that we are going to be working, we are working from the bottom of our work all the way to the chain 1 space and stopping there. We are not working on the opposite side of our row anymore. We are just working until the chain 1 space. Why? Because I am trying to create a base for my leaf, okay? What should be more like a base for my stalk, leaf stalk, all right? So as you can see, I have gone all the way up until my chain 1 space, and I have also worked a single crochet into that chain 1 space. Okay, that's why I said I have worked until the chain 1 space. Now once you are there, you will chain 1 and turn your work, and then you'll skip the very first stitch and work a single crochet into the back loop of the next stitch. And from here, you are going to now continue working 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch, all the way going down until you have 2 stitches left to end your row. All right, so this is how it looks like. Okay, why we skip that 1 stitch and make a decrease is we want our edge for the stalk to keep straight and not to like curve going up. So work all the way down until you have 2 stitches left to end your row. That's why I'm going to meet you and show you what to do. Now once you are here, still it's the very same thing that we do like we have been doing. You will work 2 single crochets together into those last 2 stitches, then chain 1, turn your work, and this is the last row I'm working on this side of my leaf. So here you will skip the first stitch and work 2 single crochets together into the last 2 stitches. Oh, sorry, into the next 2 stitches, and then you will now work 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch, all the way going back up at the top of your row. And we are not working any decreases up, okay, apart from the decrease we worked on the previous row. All right, right there. So that's why you end. Now that means I have worked 1 side of my leaf for my base. Those 3 rows I have worked are for my base. So it's the very same thing I am going to carry on this other side of my leaf, on this other side right here. Okay. All right, so I will insert my yarn right here and then go all the way up to the peak, come back down the side, go back up. For those 3 rows that I have worked on the other side exactly is what you carry onto this other side of the leaf. Okay, now I'm going to get back to work the base. All right, now here I am. I have worked my other side of my leaf, and this is how it looks like. Okay, those are the 3 rows extra that we worked on this side. It's exactly what I worked on the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to work along this edge. There is no sense of what you need to work along this edge. For this leaf, I need like 8 single crochets along this edge. So I'm just going to work 8 single crochets, making sure I am placing each single crochet rightly where it has to be placed. And once I have that, then I have the base of my leaf worked perfectly. All right, then I'll chain 1, turn my work the very same number of single crochets along that edge once again. Then you have your leaf complete. Now this is what is going to happen. I'm going to be telling you the number of foundation chains that you need to work for each leaf and the number of rows before you work those 3 rows for the base of our leaf. For this one, I started with 21 chains. In that way, I had 20 stitches to work into. And for the rows across right here, before the 3 rows on each side, I worked a number of 6 rows. And then on this side and this side, I worked 3 rows, okay, for the base of my leaf. And for this leaf, we only need 1. for that leaf size we only need 1. Now these are the underbust sleeve size, and here I started with a total number of 31 chains. So in that way I had 30 chains to work into, and all the way across up to here I have a total number of 11 rows before working the 3 rows on each side. Okay, and for this one we need a total number of 3 leaves. Okay, and now moving on to the biggest size of the leaf. This is it. Okay, now for this one I worked a total number of 41 foundation chains. All right, and then that means I had 40 stitches to work into. Okay, now for the number of rows that I worked for the coverage I needed for my bust, I worked a total number of 12 rows. Okay, but you can go wider if you're working for a size medium. You can just go wider by about 3 more rows. Okay, maybe to have like 16 rows before you work the 3 rows that we work on each side of the leaf. Okay, for the base. If you're working for a size large, I advise you should work maybe up to 61 foundation chains. I think that will give you good coverage. I have written a pattern for this one and what adjustments to make for each size. So I believe also the written pattern will be helpful. Okay, so for this one, for this leaf, we just need 2 of them, 1 for each breast. Okay, so I'm going to let you work all the leaves that you need for all the sizes that you need. Okay, following the tutorial I have given you and the number of rows that I have explained. Okay, for the biggest leaf I am not working a tutorial for it because you just need to follow exactly what I have done for the underbust leaves. The only change you must make is the number of rows before working on the side of the leaf, which is 12 rows, because for the medium size we worked 11 rows. And then maybe also the foundation chains. For the medium size I started with 31 chains. For the bust size we are starting with 41 chains. I hope you understand that. Now once you have all your leaves complete, the next thing is assembling them in the manner that gives you that top, the shape of the top that we are looking for. So I'm going to explain how you need to assemble your leaves and where to stitch up. Okay, now here we are going to stitch from the bottom of the smallest leaf, stitching the bust leaf together until that corner of the smallest leaf on both sides. Okay, so you stitch from the base going all the way up until the corner of the smallest leaf right there. Okay, even on this side you stitch from the bottom all the way going to the corner right there. So now we have our halter neck leaf and then the bust leaves attached. Now the under bust leaves are placed over the bust leaves in that way. The corner or the base corner should be at what should be the center of the bust leaf right there. Make sure it is either slightly away from the center or right at the center. That corner should be right at the center and then placed in this way that the corner of the under bust is, oh God. Anyway, just look at it. Now the underbust leaf is actually placed down here. I haven't worked my third leaf for the underbust, but I'm using this small leaf that I have extra. So the third leaf should be placed right here. It will be bigger than this, than what I'm using to show you. Okay, it will be bigger than that, but yes, it should be placed in that kind. So when joining the smallest leaf to the biggest leaf, you make sure you're starting from the corner of the smallest leaf and you go all the way down. And what you do on this side of the leaf is exactly what you do on the other side. So also for the second biggest leaf, which is our left side of the bust, we do the very same thing. We start from the corner of the smallest leaf and hand sew all the way going down, attaching the biggest leaf as well on that side. Okay, so Once you are done with that, then now we shall move on to attaching our medium-sized leaves. Those are the underbust sleeves. All right. And for those ones, we have to place them in a manner that the corner, like the bottom corner, which should be the bottom of the leaf, it should lay right at the center of the biggest leaf, which is the bust leaf, but in a diagonal manner, just like I have shown you, and just like you see I have placed it right here. So you hand sew all the way going down to the corner of the underbust leaf. Okay, then you do the very same thing onto the other side as well. You attach your underbust leaf in this very same manner. So you make sure it's placed diagonally, but with the corner starting from the center of the bust leaf. Also, the third underbust leaf is also placed in that kind of manner. The corners, both corners should be at the center of both underbust leaves. Okay, right there and right there. Then hand sewn all the way down. After that, you will work along the edge of the center or the circle that we have created at the center. So you just get your yarn. It's very simple, and we are just going to be working into the single crochets that are right around that circle. So you pull through your yarn and then chain one and work one single crochet into every stitch all the way around until you get to the end of your row, and then work a slip stitch to close up your row. And after that, you will chain one, turn your work once again. You will work one single crochet into every stitch just to make sure that we have a fine edge for our center or our circle. You work one single crochet again into those very same single crochets you have previously worked, and then work a slip stitch, cut your yarn, and weave in your ends. So there is no science, just find your way into every stitch that is possible to insert your hook into, but make sure that it gives you a clean edge. Okay, after that you will weave in your ends, then cut your yarn, weave in your ends, and then later you are going to make a string that is long enough to go all the way up your neck and across your back. Okay, just make sure you run it through the tips of the leaves. Once you have that, your top is complete. So thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.